Good morning, everyone. I am in North Dakota. I am about 200 feet from the boundary of Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Not too long ago, I made a video about visiting Badlands National Park in South Dakota. I hadn't been there either. And so before that video, before that trip, I did some research and I found a list basically of the top 8 things you have to see in Badlands National Park. That worked out really well, so I thought, why not do the same thing for Theodore Roosevelt National Park that I've also never been to. And so last time I used a website called Dirt in My Shoes. I did the same thing this time. 8 things you can't miss on your first visit to Theodore Roosevelt. I'll put a link to this page in the video description. And there are 8 things on that list, but I may see or do more things and add to that list, or I might not be able to do things for whatever reason and take them away from that list. So I'm not sure what the final number of things is going to be for this video. This national park is in 2 sections. There's a southern section and a northern section. They're like an hour or an hour and a half apart from each other, and they're not connected. Today, I'm going to be focusing on the southern section, and then maybe tomorrow we'll go to the northern section. That's all going to be in this one video, so you don't have to go looking for the sequel to this video. And the first thing we're going to do today is the Petrified Forest Loop Trail. This is a, I think, 10-mile trail that goes through the northwest corner of the southern section of the park. I think there are smaller loops you can do, like 3 or 4 miles each. But I'm going to do the whole thing, the whole shebang, the whole enchilada to really get a good idea of what it's like there. I'm at the trailhead now, so let's get started. It should take, I'm guessing, 4 or 5 hours. So here is the trailhead sign. I'm here on the border of the park. The loop trail is this. The out and back is just going here and back, or here and back. There's the north section and the south section. So by doing the loop, I'll go to both of these sections, and then also this, which I think is mostly rolling prairie, according to the sign here. So we have several pieces of petrified wood here, several small boulders, I guess we'll call them. Nothing bigger than a microwave. But here's a close-up look at a piece. I mean, this really does look like wood. This is something you'd throw into the campfire. But of course, it's rock. This is the biggest piece I've seen here. Pretty darn big. I assume this is the trunk section of a huge tree. Looks like you can still see the vertical lines of bark going up the trunk. It's amazing, isn't it? Wow. Well, I think that just about does it for this section of petrified wood. It's all in this this dry wash behind me here. So we're leaving that behind now and starting on the miles of prairie walking, I guess, on the larger loop trail. That's an elk over there. Well, oh, feels good to be out of the wind. It was 4 hours of walking through 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. Oh man, but that was a great hike. So it turned out to be, let's see, 11.47 miles, so about 11 and a half miles. I'm looking at my phone here, and it took 4 hours, 14 minutes. I actually think that that long trail, the big loop, that actually was worth doing. That was a really beautiful hike. I saw tons of bison, I saw an elk, I saw lots of prairie dogs, so it was great for wildlife, and it was just pretty. It was a pretty hike. So that was the first place on the list of 8 things to see and do in Theodore Roosevelt National Park. They're not all going to take this long. This was by far the longest one. I think there are some other hikes on the list that are like half a mile long to viewpoints, so nothing crazy. But let's go on to the second spot and we'll talk about that one. I'm now at Theodore Roosevelt National Park Visitor Center. It's not the visitor center itself that I'm interested in seeing, but it's something out back behind the visitor center. And that is a cabin that Theodore Roosevelt, who is the namesake of this park and who was President of the United States and who spent quite a bit of time out in the Dakotas, it's his cabin. This is not the original location of that cabin, but he used to own this cabin. He bought a ranch out here. He bought a cattle ranch out here in the Dakotas, and he ended up occasionally staying in this cabin. It was eventually moved here after this area was made a national park. So let's go tour the cabin and see what it looks like. So this is called the Maltese Cross Cabin. The ranch that he bought, that Theodore Roosevelt bought, was once known as the Maltese Cross Ranch. So this is the Maltese Cross Cabin. This is the original wood and the original door. Let's see, this is his bedroom area. Little washstand, mirror, and bed. And over here, this is Theodore Roosevelt's authentic trunk. You can see TR on top there. I think the rest of this stuff is mostly not his, but it is period authentic. But this was actually his. Over here, we have a little kitchen area, sitting room. It's actually pretty nice, nicer than I thought it would be. I guess if you were a rich future president from back east, you'd have a pretty nice place. And over here, yeah, this is the kitchen area. Table, stove, little cabinet or pantry over here. Just right on the side of the road here. Spot number 3 here in the park is a trail called Wind Canyon Trail. It is a short trail. It's a 0.4 mile long loop trail. I think it goes down to the river or to an overlook of the river or something. I don't know. Let's go find out. So the sign at the trailhead here says something interesting. What makes Wind Canyon so special? And it says that basically water carves most of the formations in the park here, but wind carved the formations here in Wind Canyon. I believe this is Wind Canyon right here, just a short walk from the parking area. Got some carved rock formations right there. And here's the view of the river. This is the Little Missouri River. And then this is the final viewpoint of this little hike here. again, looking down at the Little Missouri River. You can see how the trail kind of follows the edge of the cliff a little bit. Not a bad little hike. My GPS said it was half a mile exactly, and it took me about 15 minutes, including a couple of minutes of waiting for a woman to stop yelling at her son so I could get some cleaner audio here. But yeah, nice little trail. If you want to get a view of the river, that's a good way to do it. Let's go on to the next spot, spot number 4. Spot number, let's see, 4, I think, Buck Hill. It's a short walk, short hike, 0.1 mile up and back. Shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. This is just a little paved pathway up to a hilltop. It's not the highest point in the national park, but it's one of the highest points in the park, and so the views should be pretty good from up here. Well, I'm at the top. It is beautiful, but windy. Sheltering from the wind behind this tree here, it is just relentless, merciless, that wind. But yeah, the trail, it goes up and over the actual summit of the hill. So you get a view from one side of the hill, and then you go up to the top of the hill, get views kind of in all directions, and you can keep going. That's where I am now, to get better views off to the far side of the hill. If my camera still works after today, it'll be a miracle. Spot number 5, Painted Canyon Nature Trail. This is a trail that starts at one of the other visitor centers, the Painted Canyon Visitor Center, and it's 9/10 of a mile long. So this trail basically goes down into the canyon here and back up. It's a little loop trail. Pretty area. Excited to get down in there. That trail was fine. I don't know. I think you can get the same effect by just coming to the visitor center here and taking pictures overlooking the canyon down there. It was pretty scenery, but it didn't really go anywhere. It was just like a loop trail for the sake of being a loop trail, if that makes sense. So, I mean, not a bad trail, but not one you need to do. Let's go drive up toward the northern unit. I'm going to find a free campsite somewhere on the national grassland around that part of the national park. All right, found a campsite not too far outside of the northern unit of Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Let me show it to you. I'm in a little bit of a bowl surrounded by hills. It's not the greatest campsite. There's actually a lot of shooting trash, like shotgun shells and stuff over there. But it's good enough for tonight. It's the next morning. I'm driving through the northern section of the park en route to our first destination of the day. And there are some bison cruising right along next to the road. First order of business today, hike the Little Mo Nature Trail. This is a little trail that has a couple different versions. I think there's a about a 1 mile version and a 2 mile version. Both are loops. I think the shorter loop is this paved path here. And then if you want to go beyond that, there's an unpaved path. And presumably we're going to get some views, get a look at the Little Missouri River that this trail is named after. I'm learning that one benefit of the longer trail is that it goes up onto the hill a little bit above the river here, so you get really nice views of the river that I don't think you would get on the shorter trail. One thing I forgot to mention so far in this video is that if you do want the exact GPS tracks that I'm making on this trip, that I'm using on this trip, those will be available on my website, adventureknowhow.com. I'll put a link to that in the video description if you are interested. And here's our first good, solid look at the river, close-up look at it. It's a bit cloudy, a bit muddy in there right now. Well, that was a nice little hike. Took about half an hour. I'm a fast hiker, so your mileage may vary here. Both the loops were worth doing if you just want to get a kind of a closer look at the river, then just do the shorter paved loop. If you want to get a closer look of the river and have kind of a nice hilltop view of it, then check out the longer loop, and you'll get some of those elevated views that are really nice. Spot number 7 on our list is the Cannonball Concretions Pullout. That kind of sounds like a medical issue that you'd want to get checked out, Cannonball Concretions. But they're these small round rock formations that are kind of interesting, so let's go take a look. So here are some of the rocks, the Cannonball Concretions. These are big. I mean, these are like the size of an exercise ball. And very strange. Scientists aren't entirely sure how these things are formed. That's a bit of mystery. Some of them have fallen down. Like this one over here has fallen out of the cliff. Others are still in there, obviously, then others are in the mountainside here and will take maybe another 1,000 years or so to pop out. And by the way, this is not one of the 8 spots in that article that I referenced at the beginning of this video. This is a spot that I just figured out through my own research that I thought would be worth visiting, and yeah, it is worth a stop. I'm now at point number 8, I think, and it's called Riverbend Overlook. It says, straight ahead an easy gravel path leads to a viewing deck. It is one of the most iconic views in the park. And one thing I read said that this was the best viewpoint in the park, so looking forward to it. Very, very pretty. It's windy today, a little bit, but not nearly as windy as the last couple days. This is manageable, I can live with this. Awesome, let's go on to our final spot. There are more bison in this park than I thought there would be. This one is just doing his thing right in the middle of the road. Here we go, we've got some movement. Oh great, now they're blocking both sides. Both lanes here. This is the Oxbow Overlook viewpoint. This wasn't meant to be my last stop here. There's actually a trail that leaves from this parking area that I wanted to do, but I figured as long as I'm here, let's see this. So I guess this is point number, what is it, 9? Are we at 9 now? And this is a great viewpoint. This is beautiful. Nice views of the river, nice views of the Badlands. The real last thing I wanted to do and see was Sperati Point. It's a 2.4 mile round trip hike. It's supposed to be another really great viewpoint. So let's go do that. That'll be our final stop of the day, final stop in the national park. Once I get out to Sperati Point and then back to the car, I'll go over all the points that I visited, all 10 points that you've seen in this video. I'll go over my favorites and say which ones were worth visiting, which ones weren't. Got more bison in the background here. Those guys are everywhere in this park. I am at Sperati Point now. It was 1.3 miles, took me 27 minutes. You can see the trailhead right there. And then here is the view. Not a very interesting hike out here. There weren't really views, it was just kind of over rolling grassland. But I think it was worth it for this view. This view is a little bit better than the one from the trailhead from Oxbow Point. This might be my favorite view in the park, actually. This is gorgeous. And that'll do it for my exploration of Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Obviously I didn't see and do everything. There are a lot of trails that are supposed to be good that I didn't do. But I saw, I think, a good balance. I saw, I think, highlights of what the park has to offer. Saw 10 things in the national park. What were my favorites? What were my least favorites? I think that my favorites were the Petrified Forest Loop Trail. I really enjoyed seeing the petrified wood. I liked seeing all the animals that I saw there. I liked the variety of terrain. At 10 miles, it's a little bit on the longer end of the spectrum as far as possible trails in the park, but if you're up for it, it was a great hike. After that, I'm looking at my list here. Buck Hill was great. That was the high point or one of the high points in the park. The Little Missouri Nature Trail that I did this morning, and the Cannonball Concretions, those were both great, all worth doing. The Wind Canyon Trail, yeah, also worth doing. And then here there were 3 viewpoints that I did in pretty rapid succession. The Sperati Point one, the Riverbend Overlook, and the Oxbow Overlook. Basically pick one of the 3 and do it. I do think that the Sperati Point was probably the best view, but it did take longer because of the hike out there. And I mean, they're all great views, so you're not going to miss much if you don't go out there. My least favorite thing was the Painted Canyon Nature Trail. Again, I think that was just kind of a trail to nowhere for no good reason. The cabin, I guess it's worth seeing just because it's right behind the visitor center and you're going to be, driving right past it, but you don't really need to see it. And yeah, I think that covers it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. I do recommend doing both scenic drives. I think you'll get 90% of what the park has to offer, even if you don't want to leave your car, just by doing the main drive in the southern unit and then the drive in the northern unit. Let me know what I should see the next time I'm here. Let me know what your experiences in the park have been. And overall, great national park. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to say something that might be controversial and unpopular by saying that I actually liked this park more than Badlands National Park in South Dakota. I think there's more variety here. I think it's more interesting. I've seen the kind of thing in Badlands a lot in southern Utah, just like eroded rock formations. And so, it was awesome. It was, worth visiting for sure, but this place is just a little bit more unique, a little bit more laid back. And yeah, I think I liked it a little bit more. That's it for my time here in the national park. I'll see you guys in the next video. Be sure to check out Adventure Know How, my new site, where you can gain access to a map of all of my free campsites, plus monthly bonus videos that you won't find anywhere else. Learn more at adventureknowhow.com. And for links to everything else SUV RVing related, visit suvrving.com. Links to these sites and more will be in the video description.